space to the stars. All history all the time. This is Bayonets and Brews History Talk Podcast. Here is your host, from History Savior 1941, Josh Fry.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of History and Brews podcast. We missed last week. Some of you guys may have saw on social media. Sorry about that. We had every plan to do last week's show until the very last minute. Some personal things come up here. Personal emergency had to tend with, but hey, that stuff happens. But this week, oh man, do we have an awesome guest this week? Is one of my really good friends. We have Aaron from Aaron's Civil War Travels. Aaron, good Monday evening. How's it going?
It's going good, brother. How are you?
Doing good. It's still a little bit warm here in South Alabama. Probably a little bit warmer than where it is where you are.
Yeah, in Virginia, it's not terrible out, but we're getting a lot of wind, so it makes it a lot colder.
Yeah, it's been awfully warm down here, but how's things going with you, guys? If you don't know, you can check out Aaron Civil War Travels. AaronCivilWarTravels.com is his website. You can book him for a tour. You can visit him on YouTube at Aaron Civil War Travels. Same thing on Instagram and on TikTok as well. He's all over the place. And how's things been going?
It's been going good. It was a busy week last week. Just finished Remembrance Day up in Gettysburg, and I'm sad to say, but now proud to say, it was my first one. Every time I had wanted to go to that, I was in law enforcement for 15 years, so I ended up, for some reason, was working, and then I was on call all the time, and then it just never worked out. So this year, my wife was like, "You gotta go," and I agreed with her. So she got a weekend to herself because my son was camping for scouts, and I got to go to Gettysburg, and I stayed up there for 3 days. So.
Oh, nice. So what kind of cool things did you do while you were in Gettysburg? Did you visit all the sites?
Yeah, and I've been to Gettysburg a lot. Of course, ran into some great historians there. Gary Edelman from the American Battlefield Trust, Matt from Civil Warscapes, my buddy Gavin, who does Gettysburg Guy. Check out that YouTube channel. He's 12, and that kid he's up and coming.
You said he's 12?
He's 12. He's going on 13, but if you look at my social media, you'll see a picture of him. He's in full uniform there at the 62nd Pennsylvania Monument. They did a ceremony for them, and his name's Gavin, or the Gav as he's called. He is awesome and super knowledgeable for his age, and I was floored. He follows the channel and everything, and I know he was excited to meet me, but honestly, I think I was more excited to meet him because I was like, dude, this is cool. This 12-year-old doing this. But went around, met some wonderful people. Just enjoyed it. The parade was really neat. Of course, you saw the Liberty Rifles there, marching in step. I mean, it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And the illumination, at night in the cemetery, that it was just, they read the names off and everything. And I'll have a special video coming out on the channel, probably Wednesday. For that, I haven't announced it yet, but I just did. So I'll probably have that coming out Wednesday morning at 7. But it just, you can't stand in the cemetery like that, surrounded by all those lights, and just not feel humbled.
Yeah.
And sacrifice.
So let me ask you this real quick. Did you get to visit the famous air conditioner when you were there?
I saw it. I did see it. It did not give autographs, which was surprising. The famous man, that was fun to watch all the social media stuff about that.
Dude, it's been all over the place. Like, there's been several people making these AI memes of Gary Edelman and Tim Smith
Oh yeah.
about the air conditioner. I saw one where yesterday, I think his name is Grant David on Instagram. He makes these memes. He puts them on the Dressing Gettysburg page all the time, I think. And he had one the other day where beavers were running rapid in Gettysburg, and they were like eating Tim Smith and Gary Edelman up. And dude, I can't.
Yeah, the lake is still there at Little Round Top. I can see it. Yeah, I didn't see the beavers, but I guess they were chasing Edelman around the battlefield since he was there. I'm not sure.
You know, every time I've been to Gettysburg, I have never seen any beavers or beaver dams.
Yeah,
I mean,
that one, it's there now. It's definitely noticeable.
well, everyone's asking what's the brew for the night. For me, well, it's a Milo sweet tea.
There you go. Well, for me, so I just before Remembrance Day on Wednesday, I gave a presentation on the Battle of Wapping Heights and Manassas Gap in Front Royal, which is where it occurred. And one of the main themes of that battle was also known as the Blackberry Affair. So I have in my little Glencairn here some Tennessee Blackberry whiskey.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not too too much of a bite to it, but it definitely you get that blackberry feel. And so that's kind of my tribute to the guys eating their blackberries at Wapping Heights.
Sounds actually really good.
Yeah.
We may start talking. You go from the air conditioners at Gettysburg to talking about some more in-depth stuff here. So we may get really deep in the conversation, but. Aaron, so I've always, I kind of know the backstory of you a little bit, but for the listeners out there, they may not. Tell me how you got. What was your road leading into Civil War? Becoming a Civil War historian.
So I started out when I was a kid. We lived out in the country. We didn't have a lot of money, and my mom and dad both were into history in some way, shape, or form. My dad was more of a World War II history buff. My mom was really big in genealogy in the Civil War. And I remember growing up, one of the books that we had, I don't know where they got it. I think it was like a thrift store or something, but it was the Harper's Weekly Pictorial, big book, which I have a copy in here now. But and I'm in my office, not out next to a cannon, as you can see in my background. But anyway, I remember going through that and looking at it, and it's super small print. It's like the newspapers, and for 6, 7-year-old, 6, 7 for all you kids out there. But for that age, looking through all that, I didn't understand a lot of it, but it got me going. And then we watched Gettysburg. It came on TV.
I think we may be losing there the high class drink. There we go. You're back. You're back.
Where we stopped.
Well, the plane. We stopped when the plane flew over the antenna. That gives off the signal up there in Virginia. So
that's what it was. Yeah, probably because we are on the flight path.
But I think we were at you getting into the Civil War 6 or 7.
Yeah, so I was 6 or 7 years old. I was looking at this book, the Harper's Weekly Pictorial History, and just enthralled by it, but not understanding a lot. Watched the movie Gettysburg. Our first trip that I ever remember taking was to Gettysburg. And I stood beside the cannon, dressed. I had a Confederate kepi on, a purple shirt, some like plaid shorts, and a belt with a sword that I made. So
wait a minute, you remember this?
I have the picture of it too.
Oh, there's photo evidence of this. Okay,
but there is that is something that my wife can tell you is I have a really interesting memory. But it hooked me. And I mean, we used to, in school, we would play the Civil War, and I was, Stonewall Jackson or U.S. Grant or something like that. And I had my buddies going. We took over the playground. Even on my fifth grade report card, which there's photo evidence of this, I found the report card and took a picture of it. It even says in there that Aaron is great with Civil War history. If I could get him to do the same stuff in math and be like an all-star student, just for so you guys know, I did not do that stuff in math or English. I enjoyed history way too much. But to have that, that's the fifth grade that I had that. So it's been a part of my life for a long time. Something I wanted to do. I got into law enforcement right as soon as I got out of high school. I had done ride-alongs and things like that, and that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to serve my community. I got married right out of high school to my wife, Diana, who's my biggest supporter. And we, rather than going into the military, I went to law enforcement. And I had 15 good years with it. I enjoyed a lot of it. Of course, there are things that you don't enjoy. There's things that you wish never happened. But overall, being able to serve the community was a blessing and a privilege. After that, I went, I still wanted to get into history. And I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to work for the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation. Worked for them for a few years, doing some battlefield maintenance, working on some projects here in Newmarket, Winchester, places like that, and really learning a lot of different ways to present things and do things. But even prior to that, I mean, I had given a couple tours and talks. I would have people come up to me in the sheriff's office and say, "Hey, come and can you come give a talk about Port Republic to the Ruitons Club and stuff?" And so I did. And then after in 2024, I'd always had this thing. I called it Aaron Civil War Travels, where I documented all the different Civil War sites I went to. I was writing them down, and then I made the YouTube channel in 2016. Didn't do a whole lot with it because I really didn't know what I was doing. And then learned eventually, but it just became a theme, Aaron Civil War Travels.
Yeah.
And, I from there in 2024 decided it's time to make a business. Some things happened that kind of kept me at home. My mother-in-law got pancreatic cancer, and she moved in with us. And so I stayed home to take care of her. But during that time, took the leap. Like, I got to be here. Why not try this? And so I had a few talks come up in 24, and then it's been steadily growing, giving tours and things like that over the last year or so. But I've been doing this a good bit of my life.
It's an interesting road. Our paths were pretty similar, and getting into the American Civil War, and even with a law enforcement background, I had a brief stint in law enforcement myself, and a brief, a longer stint as a firefighter. Before I made my road into doing this full time and getting into film and the film industry a little bit more, this whole time I was working in film. But the road was very similar in that, I want to highlight something here you mentioned, and that is, of course you're getting interested in the Civil War 6 or 7 years old, and then this film called Gettysburg comes out, and I want your take on this because I often hear this in the history community. It's an argument. There's a lot of people out there that hate that people just get so stuck on just Gettysburg. A lot of people get stuck on, they know everything about the Battle of Gettysburg, but can't tell you anything else about the American Civil War, really. And to me, I love that people get into Gettysburg first, usually due to watching that film. Because Gettysburg is what I like to call the gateway drug to the American Civil War history hobby. And some people end up going beyond the gates of just Gettysburg, and some people just stay inside of that fence. But what is your take? Like, when you first got into Civil War history, was you hitting Gettysburg really hard and heavy?
Actually, no. For me, the first battle I ever read about was Bull Run, the first Battle of Bull Run.
Okay.
And that just stuck with me. I mean, there's Jackson standing like a stone wall. And of course, now there's some, as you're older, you learn there's some controversy with that. There's all these other little factors. But at that point, for a kid, and I remember reading that in the Harper's Weekly book, reading about just enough about the Battle of Bull Run. And so I remember playing Bull Run in my backyard with a stick and whatever hat I had laying around. So, and then seeing Gettysburg, it definitely piqued my interest more because what that movie did, and Glory too, and Andersonville, what those movies did and still do today is they put you in the scene. They put you there. You see some of the carnage, and it's not near what they would have seen then. But that may that never be replicated, but it gives your mind's eye a little bit more to understand of what. So I definitely understand people seeing movies like that and jumping in, and it's a different way to get you hooked.
It is, and the thing I hear a lot too from different people is like, oh, this was wrong in this movie, whether it's referring to Gettysburg or Andersonville, Glory, Gods and Generals, or Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Masters of the Air, Saving Private Ryan. The thing is, oh yeah, and see the Patriot. But see, the thing is that I like to tell people, having a background in the film industry, and also, being a historian, and I respect it because, of course, not everything in those films is going to be right. This is written by a lot of people who, really didn't know too much about what they were writing about, But also, you have to have something to keep people interested in the film. So you got to add in things that's not necessarily true to keep people on the edge of their seat. But what these films do allow is for people to get interested in the subject of the film. So if you watch Saving Private Ryan, the positive outcome of that film was a lot of people knew more about the D-Day landings than they may have before they watched the movie. And now, well, they got an interest in it. I've heard countless amounts of reenactors and people tell me, hey, I got into this because I watched Band of Brothers, Well, it is their gateway drug into the studying the actual history, the real history. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, we wouldn't still be studying this if we knew everything.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where it, like I said, it really it gives you an image of what things may have been like. It's a taste, and it's up to the person whether they decide that, hey, this has got my interest and I'm going to jump in, or you know what, this was cool. I feel like I learned a little bit, but and I think if people go into it too with realizing that not everything is exactly as it seems on film, that's always a good thing. But the premise of it and the overall, Field of Lost Shoes. It's about the Battle of Newmarket where I'm at. There's a scene in there of a hand-to-hand fight because it's epic, right? It didn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. It didn't happen, but it works in the film. So, I tell people on tour with that, and they're like, "Hey, what about this?" I'm like, "Oh, that was Hollywood. That part didn't happen." But the fact of that could have happened as well. That it's so close. I mean, they were close to it at one point. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you can, yeah.
You know, well, we got the live chat open, guys. I forgot to mention that at the start of the show. I'm sorry. We can see I can see your chat on this end. So if you got questions for Aaron, send them over. I can send them. I can also see what you guys are saying, and we'll get to your questions whenever we can. Just bear with us. Comments, whatever you got. But I did see one here pertaining to what we're talking about. It says, this is from Paul. It says, being a reenactor, you spend a good amount of time yelling at the TV saying, oh my God, that's the wrong helmet. You know, the funny thing about it, have you ever reenacted, Aaron?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit? So you know all about this.
I was very far behind the first time.
I think we all are the first time. But, you know, the funny thing I found out is like when I was watching like Gettysburg or Guys and Generals, I didn't know the difference at that age, you know, but after you become a reenactor, it's just like I don't know, it's like something in the back of your head flips on and you start looking for this crap.
Yeah. You want to be, it's a way to honor them. You know, it's a way to show that, because you're not just going out there and doing, you know, you're not just moving through the steps. You're going back in time. It's like I said, it's just a way to honor them, and I think doing it as best you can. And some people, I mean, it's an expensive hobby to reenact.
God, yeah.
You know, I borrow stuff all the time. I will say that it's great to know how to sew. Not that I have experience with this, but don't try to sew your pants while you're wearing them. Anyway, if there's any reenactors out there who are going to try to do that, it hurts. Not that I have knowledge of that.
And where you stick that needle is wherever that needle goes is according to how bad it's going to hurt.
Yeah, you'll find out. You know, it's, and you learn from others too. You know, I mentioned the Liberty Rifles earlier. Those guys are, I mean,
oh yeah,
pristine. They go over all the marching and everything, and it's amazing what they do, and that's needed as well. And then, but I'm okay with people who are just getting into it and trying, and you know, they're like, you know, maybe they got some bad information, or maybe they're wearing the wrong year. You know, it's 63 event and they're doing 62, but the fact that they're there and that they are trying to honor the memory of those fallen, I can't fault them for that.
No, the Liberty Rifles, guys, if you've never seen videos of the Liberty Rifles, the American Battlefield Trust is probably the best place I could point you to. Or Project Pass has got a few videos of them. Visit James's channel.
I've got a few things on the channel too.
Do you?
Some artillery that they did, a couple things marching. They're amazing.
Dude, I mean, those guys give you goosebumps. It was the recreation they did of the first Minnesota charge at Gettysburg that gave me absolute goosebumps. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anything that cool. And then after that, they did the anniversary at Antietam. Mm-hmm. And that was, dude, I saw the video of that, and it's shot in the early morning. The fog's over the battlefield. There's not really that much light, and the smoke. And it was stupidly, eerily, just, it looked like you were watching the actual battle unfold. Yeah, and those guys are great, dude.
They're awesome. When I worked for the foundation, they came to Port Republic and depicted I believe it was the 1st West Virginia. And oh my gosh, they did dress parade. It was just them. They did the march and they did dress parade. I had never seen that at any type of reenactment, because you don't get to see that because generally you're lining up going. They did this red off the roll. I mean, they went through the whole thing, and I mean, I'm sitting there, I was videotaping and taking pictures, but at the same time, I kind of forgot what I was doing there for a little bit, because I was just in awe. I was like, oh my gosh, like you get goosebumps. You're like, I'm here. You know, thank goodness I'm not getting shot at, but I'm here.
It's crazy, man. Like those guys, if every reenacting unit was like the Liberty Rifles, dude, there would be some outrageously just cool reenactments going on.
Yes.
But how long were you a reenactor? How many years would you say?
So I did it off and on. Usually it was just borrowing stuff with people. I still technically am a member of Battery F, First Pennsylvania Light Artillery. Love those guys. They're some of my favorite people. I've been able to go do a lot of living histories with them, and they're awesome. And they invite you in, and you know, kidding me out. They've already told me again, like, oh, you come kid out if you want. And, train me on the gun. So getting to fire cannon's always fun. So I would say, I guess I started my very first one I ever did was 2004, and that was over in Standardsville, Virginia, which they don't do that one anymore. I ran into reenactors from the 5th Virginia in Port Republic, and a guy named Waverly, who's since passed, was big in the reenacting community. Great guy. He invited me out. Of course, like I said, I was pretty Farby looking. I am sad to say that my first battle, we stood there for 2 hours because things got a little delayed. And it was October. In October in Virginia, it's hot during the day and cold at night.
Yeah.
So it was hot. Everything got really hot. I'm in that wool, never done that before. I got dehydrated, and I remember waking up in the rescue squad. I was a casualty as soon as the fight started, pretty much. But I did still get that experience of leveling that musket down, firing, seeing people come at you. It was a rush, and I was like 19 years old. So
I think my first reenactment that I ever did, it was a Civil War reenactment. It was the anniversary it was one of the anniversaries at Chickamauga. It was the last big one, not the one that just come up, but Dick Cheney was vice president of the United States at the time. He actually came there and did the speech, and man, it was crazy because there was Secret Service all over the freaking place.
Oh, yes.
And they lined us up, and I remember them coming around. They were like, "Hey, you got your bayonet? Yeah. Take it off. Okay. You got a knife? Yeah. Take it off. Okay. You got your rifle? Well, I need y'all to stack them. You're not allowed to bring your rifles." And so we're doing a parade in front of Dick Cheney with nothing. And I'm just sitting there. I remember thinking, like, how is this historically accurate?
Well, it's funny you say that. When I was with Battery F up in Gettysburg, it was during the presidential elections. Was Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump happened to be in Gettysburg, and he actually came by during our time we were firing and watched us fire the gun. Of course, they wouldn't let him off the bus, but the Secret Service thing reminded me they were everywhere. And I can't remember if they came out and checked the piece or not. But it was neat, whether you like him or not. The fact that somebody running for president, was there was kind of cool. But I remember that, the Secret Service was everywhere.
So your big deal that you're interested in, and a ton of, more than anybody I really know, is the Battle of Newmarket. One of my favorite battles because it involves the Virginia Military Institute Corps of Cadets there. And, on the recent trip to VMI, I learned a lot of things I didn't know actually about the Corps of Cadets. But what is perhaps some of your favorite stories from this battle? I'm just curious.
So there are a lot of stories, and again, I was fortunate enough to work for the Battlefield Foundation here, and so I got access to Newmarket. Of course, not only that, I live here, but the stories. Gosh, there's so many. One in particular has to do with cows, and sorry, my southern drawl got in there a little bit.
Oh, it's all good. We're in Alabama down here, man. It's welcome.
Yeah. My Valley peaks out sometimes. But the West Virginians are actually, it's the Union unit, and they're in line, and cannons are booming, and all this stuff's happening, and there's like 8 cows that come running through their line. And when I've given tours, I call it the Charge of the Confederate Cow Cavalry.
Really?
They're chased by a big old Newfoundland dog. So I don't know if it was just the fact that the dog was chasing them, or everybody got spooked by this cannon fire, or what. But these dairy cows just run right through the West Virginia lines. And thinking about that when you're standing there, and you can go to that ground that is preserved, standing there and thinking about, here I am, if I'm a soldier, I got my musket, I'm ready, I'm a Union soldier, the Rebs are coming, all this artillery's fine, and I've got to worry about cows now that are running through my lines. Like, you can't make that up. I mean, that's just, and some other things, the civilian stories are intense. You have Jessie Rupert, who is here in New Market. She's a Unionist in a very Confederate town at that point, very Confederate leaning. She hides her baby under the floorboards. She had a brand new baby, hides it under the floorboards because of the artillery hitting the town and things.
Oh, wow.
But on top of it, and she'll go on to actually open the Freedmen's School here in New Market, which is still standing today and is also preserved. But you have that. You've got the splintered post where supposedly John Breckinridge was sitting in the Valley Pike, and this artillery shell hits the post, and it throws splinters everywhere, but it doesn't explode. And could have killed the Confederate command right there. You've got charge of cavalry charging into Confederate guns and getting repulsed, bloodily repulsed, over on Route 11. And then, of course, you've got the VMI cadets coming in to a battle, and a lot of people think, they don't realize this is not the first time they've been called out. They were called out several times, but most of the time, they're tasked with burying the dead, guarding the trains. They're not in actual battle. So what ends up happening is this is the first time that they are engaged in a battle, and they perform really well. They do great. There's, of course, as the war goes and after the war, there's always embellishments of different things. When they make their epic charge across the fields, the Union guns were actually retreating because they run out of ammunition. That doesn't make it any less glorious.
Yeah.
It's just not as fun to say. But the simple fact is, those boys didn't know that. It's a lot of people don't know. So New Market, May 15th, 1864, it's a torrential downpour. It's thundering, it's lightning, mud. It's called the Field of Lost Shoes because Virginia mud will suck the shoes right off your feet. It still does that today. So, it's called that. And these boys charge across there in this fog of war. And they don't know those guns are going. They're expecting blasts to their face. And, luckily for them, the ammo was running out, and they were beginning to pull those guns back, and they were able to take some of them. And the whole Confederate line moves at the same time. It's not just the VMI cadets; it's the whole line moves. And then you have poor Franz Siegel, who's shouting orders in German to his American officers who have no clue what he's saying. So I'm in between on Siegel. As a offensive general, I think he was absolutely terrible. Franz Siegel was not an offensive guy. To me, that's why he loses the battle of New Market. When you're in retreat or defense, I'd probably want Franz Siegel. Go study him at Pea Ridge. He thinks they're retreating, but he does well. Look at him at 2nd Manassas. Look at him, in all these other places. Wilson's Creek. He does pretty good when they're getting pressured and retreating. Unfortunately, as the commander of the Army here in Virginia in May of 1864, they're on the offensive, so his record's not very good.
You know, it's what baffles me sometimes, and it's hard to wrap your head around, is that how you could find so many humorous things in the midst of such chaos. You know, like cows charging the line. You know, I never knew that until you had mentioned that to me, about the Battle of Newmarket. You know, cows getting chased by a dog. I mean, could you imagine being one of those Union soldiers standing there and you just see cows coming straight at you?
And you know, there's so many others. You know, like I'm doing the blackberry whiskey tonight, and the the recurring theme in that battle at Walking Heights was blackberries. And I have it, on the slides that I have. We get to a certain part, and I'd say, "Oh, guess what they did now?" And then I just put up a picture of blackberries. And the reason is, it's because that's what they. You've got to think, these guys after Gettysburg, they move to the valley, move up the valley. Um, for those that don't know, if you are moving south in the Shenandoah Valley, that is up. If you're moving north, that's down in the valley. It runs completely opposite of everything else because the river runs the wrong way. So if you hear me say that, I'm not crazy. That's just how it is here. But they're moving, and they go up into this into the mountains, and there's Berdan sharpshooters are there. This is actually a pretty large battle. It's the Army of the Potomac, Army of Northern Virginia. But Berdan sharpshooters in there, and one of the soldiers even says it looked as if the battle was just done for them. When they ran out of ammo, he says they could now just pick blackberries in both hands, as if they were just done with the battle. That's what they're. And there's accounts of these guys firing a shot, eating a blackberry, reload, eat some more blackberries, fire a shot. It's and that's why it gets that moniker, the blackberry affair, not the phone, but the fruit. So it's little things like that. You're like, who thinks about that? I mean, well, if you're hungry, that's what you do. But a lot of people don't think about, this is Union soldiers doing it just as well as the Confederates because they're hungry. After Gettysburg, they don't have the amount of food that you would think, even though it's the Union Army, Army of the Potomac, the best supplied army in the world. They don't have all that after Gettysburg. They're trying to move quick. Rations have got to come in. They just got to replenish things. And so blackberries were commodity, a wonderful thing to have, a wonderful commodity to have. So it's little things like that. It's crazy.
And you can find stories like this. What's cool is you can find stories like this not only throughout the American Civil War, but also, like every conflict in general has these types of stories. And if you guys are hearing something in the background, it's about 7 kids outside my house right now. They're having a party, I guess.
I heard something, but I thought it was just me.
No, that's the ambiance, But it's cool, if you've never been to that area of Newmarket and Winchester, Virginia, as well, guys, you gotta go, man. It is a beautiful place. I mean, Jackson's buried there, VMI's there, Stonewall Jackson's buried there. You have the battlefield at Newmarket, and there's a bunch of other battlefields close by as well.
Gosh. And back to the Battlefield Foundation, they have been doing a lot of work opening up new parks here. I mean, they're tasked with the entire Valley District. They're a very unique group. And there's battlefield parks across Keys, Port Republic, Winchester, 3rd and 2nd Winchester, Fisher's Hill. You've got Kernstown Battlefield Association, Cedar Creek. There's a lot of epic stuff that happens here in the Valley that, for a secondary theater, there's a lot happening.
If you're a Civil War buff, Civil War nerd, and you want to take a good 2-week trip, hit Virginia. You'll never get bored. I promise you.
No, you won't.
So I wanted to hit on this a little bit. The importance of going to some of these battlefields, seeing some of these places. And why do you think it's important for people not just to study these places, but actually go?
So a lot of times, one particular thing is the terrain of things. a lot of people will ask, why did they do that? You can read it all day. Doesn't make sense just to read it. To actually go there and stand and go, oh, well, that makes sense now because there's a gully over here. So you'd have to do this. Why not just go straight at them? Or why go straight at them? Well, maybe they can't go around. There's rivers here. And even though it says that in the book or whatever, and sometimes even you can see a picture, again, it gets in your mind's eye, puts you in place, just like just like the movie. You know, it gives you another layer to put on there and to help you understand what these guys are actually going through. If you come here to the Shenandoah, go to McDowell, hike up Sitlington's Hill. You can do it in the summer. I watch out for rattlesnakes, but you can do it in the summer. You can do it in the fall. You're probably going to you might have a backpack or something, but it's not a very long hike, but it's strenuous. Once you do that, and then you think about carrying a musket, they got all that wool on, it's hot, they're going into battle. They just marched across a mountain, not drove, marched. Wow, you know? Wow.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a whole new respect for it.
You know, I say this time and time again, and it, you know, when you visit these battlefields, you're getting, like you said, you could read all you want to of accounts and books to try to understand what happens, but until you stand on the actual field, you're not going to really understand. I wanted to ask you too, what is pertaining to battlefield terrain? What has perhaps been what is the most awesome experience that you've had studying a battlefield terrain?
Oh man.
If you can narrow it down to one battlefield.
You mentioned Sitlington's Hill, and I think that is a really good one at McDowell. Just because it's the Confederates, and you would think that the Confederates, it is technically a Confederate victory. It's counted as a Confederate victory. I would also say that the Union accomplished what they meant to do that day.
Right.
As far as Robert Milroy, which I still maintain he has some of the best hair in the Civil War.
We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah, look at that. But Sitlington's Hill, it's a high hill. It's rough terrain. They didn't take artillery up there. Couple reasons. If they do, how are they getting it down? If it's got to come off very quickly, it's not going to happen. There's ravines around. The Union troops will use the ravines to go up and attack the Confederates, who, because it's an evening battle, will be silhouetted against the sun. So when you go up there and you stand up there and you look at the terrain, first off, you go, why in the world would you want to go up through here and attack this? And then secondly, you start to put those things together, though. If you're there in the evening time and the sun's coming down, you kind of get it like, oh, you can't see down in those ravines. Union are wearing dark blue uniforms. They're like little ninjas now. They're moving around. And so it's just, being able to see the terrain like that and look across and see, you can see where other prominent pieces are of the battlefield. It's just what puts it together. But Sitlington's Hill just automatically stands in my mind. Another one, it's another hill, would be Rude's Hill, which is right up the street from where I'm at. I was actually just there a little bit ago because I had to drop my truck off. There's a service center on there as well. But there's some Civil War signs there. And it had a beautiful sunset, so of course I had to get some pictures. But that is a fallback point here in the valley for Confederates.
Yes.
For a lot of things. Jackson's there, Turner Ashby's there, Ewell's there, Early's. I mean, there's just so many that come there, in Bowdoin. And there's some cavalry actions there. There's just a ton of stuff that happens there. But if you're standing on that hill, this terrain's pretty interesting. I'm protected by the river on my left. I've got the mountain on my right and another creek. And then in front of me is just flat plain. I can see everything I want to see. And you start to realize This is why they came here. They came here because this is a defensible spot. So there's a couple.
I think for me, kind of the same thing you're talking about. In that kind of moment I had was there's two battlefields in particular that really stand out to me. But the first one is Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. Have you ever been there?
Yes. I'll have some video coming out on Lookout before too long.
I remember standing at Point Lookout Park, and I just went, "How the hell did they pull this off?"
Yeah.
I mean, how did they get artillery up this? Because there is a hiking trail you can take up to the top of Point Lookout Park, and it's not easy.
No.
And it's god awful terrain. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still wonder how they got the artillery up there. And the second battlefield that I really had one of my most aha moments was Kennesaw. Standing right in the Confederate works and looking down where the Union had started building the mine. There's accounts that they, charged across that field, but when they got within just a few steps of the Confederate Army, and I'm like, how did they get that close?
Yeah.
And then how did they get stuck on the battlefield for so long? And the ridge is literally 50 yards, maybe at most, in front of the Confederate works. And these guys are that close.
Yeah.
And the Confederates can't see them until they come up over that. And it's one of those moments where you stand there and you overlook at that terrain on that battlefield and you go, now I understand.
Yeah.
And
the wilderness is another one.
Oh, yeah.
It floors me when you walk Gordon's flank trail. You can't see. The woods are still pretty thick in certain areas, the weeds. And if you think about May of 1864, the guys are mere yards apart and they can hear each other, but can't see each other.
Yeah.
And something else that just kind of popped into my head was, we're talking about more of the natural terrain stuff. What about places like Vicksburg or Petersburg, where now it's more man-made? Fort Wagner, think about that. Attacking something like that. It's man-made terrain, but it's strong. And it's, you might not always have that natural, juggernaut that you can use, and you might have to make it. But thinking about those things, it completely changes. You sit there and go, how the heck did they, and the trenches aren't as high as they used to be. It's been 160 plus years. Of course, they're not going to be as high. Erosion happens, no matter how much we preserve. Nature takes its course, but how did they do? They're doing that with cups and molds and whatever else they have, throwing up earthworks, and they're doing it quickly.
Yeah.
And just I have to dig a hole in the yard. I get tired.
I know. And I often think about that too here concerning the Mobile Bay campaign with the Battle of Mobile, Siege of Mobile Bay, rather where Fort Gaines, Fort Morgan, those are man-made fortifications. And you often wonder, well, how did that many warships not take it over? Of course you've got Confederate gunboats and vessels there as well, but then you have these two man-made fortifications that's really well man-made. I mean, there's a lot of things in place to protect against that sort of situation. And then you have Spanish Fort up the river a little bit into the bay. And these guys, like you just mentioned, they're digging and building these massive redoubts with plates, spoons, cups, whatever they can get their hands on. And these things are 3 miles worth of earthworks like this. And just like, okay, how can even 3,000 men put this up in this short amount of time? And you start to learn about the slave labor part of it, where they had slaves that they had hired to come out there from plantations, hired them out from the local plantation owners to help them build these earthworks. But even still, with that labor, the soldiers is right there beside them, digging these things.
Yeah.
And unless you walk in this terrain, guys, you won't understand these battles, because it is you can see this on Aaron's channel all the time. The places he goes, he kind of explains this in every video. You explain this in every video you do, really. Wilson's Creek is another that stands out to me. You were there not too long ago.
Yeah, I'll have a video coming out on that too.
Huh?
There's a lot of videos coming out.
Oh, dude, Wilson's Creek. Of course, my big interest in the Civil War, my main area of interest is Native American roles in the American Civil War. So, of course, my interest is at Wilson's Creek, Pea Ridge. Pea Ridge, the charge of Stan's forces there that end up massacre. There was a massacre that occurred at Pea Ridge.
Yeah, in my video, I was like, there may or may not have been some scalping. So that's we'll go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it did happen during the Civil War. So if anyone ever asks you guys, or tells you there was no scalping during the Civil War, there was. It did occur. And do you?
It says just subscribe from Ken.
Yeah. Let's pull.
Subscribing to you or subscribing to me. Either way, thank you.
He's talking about you. I think he said earlier Aaron's website looks interesting. He also said the whole Shenandoah is nice, and it is.
It's gorgeous.
Dude, I would kill to live up there. You know what we have here to look at? Have you ever been down here this far south?
I've been through Alabama. I've never actually. Every time I went through Alabama, it's been at night. I'm not sure why.
Well, you got to come and let me show you around the Civil War sites here towards Mobile. But I'm just about, I guess, 45 minutes to an hour north of the Gulf of Mexico. The beaches. I hate the beach. For one, let's get that straight, guys. No, it is not a nice thing living on the beach. Do not retire to a beach. You will regret it for the rest of your life. But we have fields. So if you want to see fields and cows and a lot of flat land, dude, I can't tell you where the nearest field to me is. Like, no idea. If they fought every Civil War battle here, there would have been no high ground anywhere for them to fight over. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's funny you say it, because when we did a cross country trip this year, something we'd been planning for years. So it took a while to save up for it and get everything together. But we finally were able to do it, and it was just so interesting. I mean, my wife and I had done it before when we moved. Long story short, we moved to Yosemite National Park to actually work, and we took some time to go across the country. Of course, it was a lot cheaper then too.
Yeah.
And we drove out there, had everything in our little Honda CRV, and that time and this time, just seeing the difference in the nation is amazing. You've got these huge mountains, you got the beautiful valley of Virginia, then you get to Arizona. I got so tired of seeing desert there for a while, but then you'll get into other parts of Arizona, and so you're going up what's like a mountain, and it's pine trees, it's beautiful, and then you come back down into the desert, and you're like, what happened? But it still has its unique piece to it. It just so happened that a good stretch of our trip at that particular point was through all desert. So, as far as you could see. And so I was really happy when we made it up to Yellowstone, whole different ballgame there, to be able to see that. But then coming back, you go across Kansas, it's fields. There's not a lot there.
No, what got me was California, man. California, you will literally go through every type of terrain in California known to man. You'll go from desert to cities, flat land with no hills to hills, and then you'll get into the mountains, and then you'll see these big, massive trees that's bigger than your house at the base.
everybody gives California a hard time, but having lived there, we were only there for 5 months because during that time, my wife got pregnant. So we came back because my mom was still alive, and that was going to be that was the only grandchild, and I didn't want her coming out there and whooping me. So we came back to Virginia. We lived in Yosemite, and it was, gorgeous. It was like living in a postcard. But you come out of the mountains, you go to Fresno, which I don't recommend. It's okay, but
it's a little ugly.
I think even people that live in Fresno tell you it's a skip over. It's just a totally different. You've got the pecan trees and all this stuff going on, and you're like, what? It's just up here where it snows, and now I'm down here and it's like 1,000 degrees.
I'm telling you, man, you come down here in the middle of summer, and this is what I don't get. People want to come to South Alabama to the world's sandiest beaches and want to burn up and roast like a chicken when it's 150 degrees. And it is horrible. I'm redheaded. I'm white, as white can be.
You don't do well in the sun, bro.
No, and I live on a Native American reservation, So I have that blood in me, but it didn't make it all the way to the surface, is what I tell people. So, but I do want to get, we don't have a whole lot of time left in the show, but I did want to get your take on some fun subject here that I don't know. I'm broken on it, man. Pennies.
My son and I were just talking about that today.
Pennies are no more after 213 years, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, pennies are done. Like,
yeah.
And I've always hated pennies my entire life, but now I'm kind of like sad. How am I supposed to feel, man?
I get some of it because it costs more to make the penny than the penny's worth, and so I get why the move to do it.
Yeah,
so much stuff's going to digital things, so I'm torn with it too, simply because
it's history.
It's history, and it's also
it's hard to explain, man.
It is. I'm still flabbergasted that I can take a card and just tap it on something that pays for it. Half time I forget. But how often, even in today's world, how often have you went, crap, if I only had like a penny or two, I'd have enough change to go through the toll booth or whatever,
Yeah.
It's always the pennies. And just, I'm torn with it too. It's 4 cents to make one. I see where yeah, absolutely. It's not economically sound, and I totally get it. I understand, but
and the cool. I will say this, and I've been hoping that this is going to happen for a while, and it is happening. I saw this the other day. It is happening. Have you ever been to Canada?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So in Canada, their money.
Canadian accent. I didn't mean to, but it kind of came out.
But in Canada, you have these polymer notes, which is like a plastic dollar bill, or all their paper money isn't paper anymore. It's this polymer. It's like a plastic. You can't rip this stuff. I don't care how hard you try. And I was like, when I was there, like, I love this stuff. It looks so freaking cool too. And, all the designs and the see-through. It's just a cool looking money.
Yeah.
And I said, I wish the U.S. would get this. Well, we are getting it. Starting later in 2026, they have announced they're coming out with the 1s, 5s, and 10s, I believe it is. They're going to start incorporating those. And, dude, I'm ecstatic about that. Like, those are the coolest looking bills. And if you look at them, you can Google them, and you can pull up the pictures of what they're going to look like. Dude, they are amazing. Like, these things look great. But again, I'm broken. Like, we're getting these dollars and fives and tens.
Change is hard, especially as we get older.
I know. But they say it takes, what, almost $1 and something to make a penny now or something?
Yeah, Ken said it's 4 cents to make 1 penny. So
4 cents to make 1 penny? Okay.
I mean, I think that's what I had heard as well. It's not economically sound, and being able to save some money somewhere is always a good thing. I guess this is really pinching pennies. Bad jokes. Now no one's going to pay me a penny for my thoughts either. It's just,
I know, like, we can't use that anymore. Pay me a quarter for my thoughts.
Yeah,
I mean,
the price went up. Everything else went up.
Yeah, they're maybe getting rid of the nickel nets, so now I guess everything's going to cost at least a quarter.
Who uses nickels anymore? Pennies, I get. Nickels, come on.
Ken says you guys have the best job. I don't know about that. But.
I will say
no,
I feel very blessed, having had the life I've had, with the adventures I've been able to be on. But all of that starts with having a great support system. I know you have it. I have it. My wife is amazing. She is not a history buff.
Mine neither.
She will go to places with me. Generally, I try to find a battlefield that has a creek or something so that she can go. She loves creeks. And sometimes I just won't tell her that, that thing was super bloody. But that support system, that's where it's at. And you can't enjoy doing this without that support. You got to have the support.
No, and I echo that. My wife hates, well, I wouldn't say she hates it, but it's not the most fun thing. She'd rather be shopping in the TJ Maxx somewhere than me dragging her to battlefields for a week. But she does it. She does it. She'll, as long as I got my phone, I'm good.
Yeah, and my wife, I usually say this whenever I'm giving a talk or on a tour, and like, my wife is so happy you're here because she doesn't have to. But she is, I'm telling you, my biggest supporter. Anything I've ever wanted to, when I wanted to go to college to get my degree, leaving law enforcement, leaving the foundation, it's just, man,
it's a scary transition too.
It is.
Because when you're working in that line of work, there's one thing that you have, and it's called job security. As long as you don't do anything stupid. But, I mean, there are.
I make pretty good money as a detective. I took a massive pay cut, but we tend to look, not to get religious, but we tend to look to God for answers on things. And if it's supposed to happen, then we do it. If not, something else will happen.
The way I looked at it was that you paying yourself to be stress-free.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you don't have that added stress of having to answer to people. You don't have that added stress of having to, be at a certain place at a certain time. Or, in your situation, it was having, the stress of, hey, you may not come home today.
And, I had some hairy times. Being on call, you miss holidays, you miss birthdays and stuff like that. And not to say that the departments I work for really did try, but there's only so much they can do. Now, the worst I have to deal with is my boss drinking on the job, as you can see. He's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think you got anywhere with HR, but yeah. But the cool thing is that in today's society, social media and these videos are the new way for education. Because kids, they just don't pick up books anymore. And that's the honest to God truth. You have to do the outreach, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I have Not only doing this, but this is a hobby. But my personal career, being my own boss, getting to work as a contractor for so many different organizations, museums that I believe in. Do I make as much money as I once did? Probably not. But you know what? I do, because the stress is gone,
Oh yeah,
and you get to do what you love. So
yeah. You do what you love, and um, it just when you can go and you hear people say you're not working if you're enjoying what you're doing, and that's true. I mean, doesn't mean that this doesn't have stress. I mean, you put out the wrong information, somebody's gonna call you on it, and I'm glad they do. But then you
yeah,
kind of feel like a butthead. It's like, dang it. And I've said things wrong plenty of times, and I absolutely am all for people. Well, excuse me, people letting me know, hey, this is how you miss this, and I'm human. It's gonna happen. And sometimes some of them are kind of funny, because I'm just like, man, there is no way. I understand it's pronounced that way. There's no way it's gonna happen. You pronounce it for me, I'm good with that.
I get that all the time, man. My accent's horrible. Like, my wife even picks on me as how bad it is. I have that southern accent. We break words in places they shouldn't really be broken.
Yeah.
And even when I talk, about history, things, and I have people, hey, it's pronounced this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, sorry, I'm southern. I'd say y'all and ain't, and we just can't help it, bro.
It's so hard for me. I used to say antenna all the time until my wife just kept after me. So now, sometimes I still slip and go, that antenna, but it's antenna.
And don't even get me to say ambulance.
Okay, I wasn't gonna say, because I was like saying.
Our little 6-year-old looked at me yesterday. He goes, "Hey, I just saw Amy Mance." I went, "What? Amy Mance?" I went, "Oh, okay."
Yep. What?
Say Concord.
Concord.
Yeah, okay. That's.
I never repeated you, because I heard you say it and it just came out that way.
Well, so the backstory on this is JD from the History Underground.
Yeah.
They tore him apart because he said, I mean, come on. We're Southern, man. It's pronounced Concord. There's a chord in that. It's not Concord. It's Concord. And okay, I'm going to get torn apart now. So the heat's off of JD and back on me. And you just staying silent over there. You're like, I'm not even dipping my toes in this.
Yeah, sometimes I've seen on JD's channel where they hit him up. And I jump on too, but usually I'm just poking fun, which he knows that. I'll say him something. What do you mean this is history? What? But yeah, he's a great guy.
He is. So, how Battlefield tours? You have your website, AaronSieverTravels.com. How can people book a tour with you?
So when you go on the website, it's got my phone number on there, the email as well. There is a form that you can fill out, and it'll come directly to my email. I think it's Jot form. It takes you to another little place, but it'll send it to me. And it's generally what battlefield you want, when. Yeah, it's got the standard stuff on it. Whether you're looking for a talk or a tour, and then I'll try to contact. I did one at Antietam with only 2 days notice. I prefer not to do that exactly all the time, but I understand too. These people were from Oregon. They were wonderful. They weren't going to be there long. They were like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And luckily, I already had given some Antietam stuff, so I had it laid out. So it got it worked. But that's the best way is through the website. Of course, I get some Facebook messages. I got an email tonight, just a straight email tonight from a gentleman asking about a tour possibly in Port Republic next year.
Oh, nice.
So in that all for that. I love getting that stuff. I love getting out there and doing it. Um, and I have the price list and stuff like that on there. But it's just the money's, yes, it's great to get paid for doing this, but I enjoy doing it. Just being able to go out and get with people and maybe they learn something new or remember something they had forgotten, and that's the big payment. I did a tour last year in Front Royal, and we had all these people paying and everything, and most of them they knew about Front Royal. They lived in Front Royal. I took them out to a little known park called Buckton Station, and to have the people come back and be like, wow, I've never been there. As far as Gettysburg is one that you have to have a license for. I've see the question there. Gettysburg and Fort Necessity, you have to have a permit through the Park Service to do. And so generally they want you, even when you do that, you still have to have a licensed battlefield guide with you at Gettysburg. So I do things around Gettysburg. I certainly can do talks in Gettysburg, but not necessarily a tour based on the restrictions.
Well, Aaron, man, it's been a lot of fun tonight. People go check Aaron out, Aaron Civil War Travels, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and of course his website. His website is aaroncivilwartravels.com. Here you go. It's up on the screen now for you. And, one of the things I'm starting to do on this show this week before we wrap every show is I have gotten to this hobby called challenge coin collecting and patch collecting. And the plan for that is, since I have a background in that industry and profession, friend of mine, our whole reenacting group that I reenact with, every last guy in it is a law enforcement officer currently. So, all of my best friend got me into it, and he said, hey, let's do this together. So we did do it together, and this week, Colorado Springs tribes, Colorado Springs Indian tribes sent this over today, actually, from the Colorado River Indian Tribes Police Department, and they sent over a cool challenge coin too. So thank you to them. Thank you for all that they do. It's a neat way to kind of pay tribute every week to a different law enforcement agency or fire department. So
yeah. We talked about challenge coins a little bit. I'm on the fence with it. I like them. I don't necessarily go seek them out yet, but if somebody gives me one, it ends up here in the office set up. So
dude, they're so cool. They're so cool to get. I mean, every one of them's cool, and I like collecting the, of course, the tribal reservation police challenge coins because, that's where I'm at here. So, and they're really neat. So, but every week we're gonna throw up one, see where it comes from, and we'll throw up a different department on here every week. And thank you to those guys for sending it. And
I saw real quick. I just want to shout out to Dogface. I saw where you said that you did that for several years. Suit up, go on duty, and hope you make it home. Appreciate your service too.
Yeah, most definitely. And thank all of you guys for listening and coming in with us and hanging out. And this show is not meant to hit on a specific history subject, but rather for friends in the history field, people, get together to talk about history. And, that's the reason why it's called History Talk. There's too many podcasts out there that we're going to talk about such and such and such tonight. And, it's an hour long ramble, and sometimes it gets boring. Let's unwind as historians, talk about whatever in the world we want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And throw up some promotional stuff for people like Aaron and all these other great channels out here and creators that's out here and historians at the same time. So, Aaron, man, thank you for coming on, man. It was a lot of fun.
This was awesome.
Yeah, and if this is the last time you think you guys are going to see Aaron on here, you're dead wrong. We're going to have him back probably quite a bit. So we'll get some fun things to talk about. Maybe next time we'll have something a little bit more fun than pennies to talk about, right? Pennies and air conditioners.
Nickel next time. I don't know.
I know. Who knows what's coming up next? But thank you, Aaron, for joining us. Guys, go check him out. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, AaronSieverWordTravels.com. Book him for your tour. So he will appreciate it, and I will too. I'm actually going to be taking a tour where Aaron might next trip to Virginia. So we're going to get together and maybe try not to fall off of a mountain somewhere. Yeah, if he brings some more of that whiskey he's got with him, that may actually happen. One of us will be gone.
Somebody's going.
So until the next episode, guys, keep preserving history. Stay safe. We'll see you on the next one.